Hello everyone, and welcome back to the month of Godzilla Resurgence.
History shows again and again how nature points out the folly of man.
This week we're going to go real simple and talk about Godzilla video games. Something I was planning on talking about last time I did this, but never got around to it. Doing an entire retrospective on Godzilla games would take forever, so I decided to narrow it down to talking about his outings on handheld devices, because I've got a crazy soft spot for handheld game consoles. There's surprisingly a lot to cover here, which really caught me off guard. We'll be talking about 7 different games today. Are you guys ready? Let's get started. The first handheld Godzilla game came out in 1990 on the Game Boy, just titled Godzilla. Cover art is promising, and the game's intro cutscene does a really good job presenting these monsters. It's all looking really nice. Then you start the game, and it's cute. Now, I'm not angry, I personally love cute Godzilla, but I can only imagine being an American kid in the 90s and having no idea what the hell a Godzilla-kun was. Okay, so some history. This game is a Game Boy port of a 1985 MSX game called Godzilla-kun. To my knowledge, there isn't much of a difference between the port and the original, so we're just gonna keep talking about the one on Game Boy. In the Japanese version, the monsters kidnap Godzilla's girlfriend, and in the American version, they kidnap Godzilla's kid. Aside from plot details, they're pretty much exactly the same. It's a puzzle game! Climb vines, move rocks, punch kaiju. Yes, I said punch. No, not with your adorable little chibi hands, no, or rather a large fist that comes out of your mouth. It's a cute little game, it's harmless, although it can be incredibly difficult at times. Graphics are nice, the game's got an art style similar to the Godzilla and television show, which I absolutely adore. However, I can't see anyone besides a hardcore Godzilla fan getting any enjoyment out of this. It's cute and simple, but maybe too simple. Only 3 years later, Godzilla would show up on the Game Boy yet again, with King of the Monsters Godzilla. Unlike the last game, this one was only released in Japan, which sucks because this one probably would have satisfied American Godzilla fans more than the first one. It's very comparable to Godzilla on NES. It's more of a side-scroller, and the graphics actually look like Godzilla, none of that cutesy-wootsy chibi shit. Unfortunately, the game really struggles to run on the hardware. It chugs and slows down all the time. Doesn't help that Godzilla's movement speed is also generally just very slow. But if you're willing to look past some pretty noticeable performance issues, I don't think it's that bad. Again, you need to be a pretty big Godzilla fan to get any enjoyment out of this one. Besides, it's got a pretty nice monster roster like Hedorah, Gorosaurus, and hell yeah, even Gabra's in this game. In my eyes, it's definitely a step up from the last game, but I really think it would have benefited from being on better hardware. In 1995, the first Godzilla handheld to not be on a Nintendo console would be released. Godzilla Giant Monster March for the Sega Game Gear. Visually, it looks very nice. I'm not a huge Game Gear fan, but this is definitely one of the most appealing looking titles I've seen on the system. And there's even 2 different gameplay modes to choose from. You can pick the army or Godzilla. Regardless of what you choose, the game is a turn-based strategy game, similar to Godzilla 2 on NES. Just move your military vehicles to stop Godzilla from attacking, or move Godzilla to attack the military vehicles. I love turn-based strategy games, and this one is pretty decent. If you're playing as Godzilla and land on a military space, you enter a battle mode that's very similar to Godzilla on NES. In fact, the highlights of this game are playing as Godzilla and the huge roster of kaiju. It's actually fun destroying cities and fighting the military. The game looks great, even with its chibi art style. The Game Gear is able to handle these kind of games a lot smoother than the Game Boy could. Strategy games are kind of hard to talk about. Like, it's a good game. So far the best one we've talked about. But like, what else can I really say? It's a strategy game. There was no official American release for this game, but thankfully a fan English patch does exist. This is the first time I can say, even if you're not a huge Godzilla fan, I still think you should check this game out. It's pretty good. The next 2 Godzilla games are getting lumped together because I do not have a lot to say. Godzilla the Series and Godzilla the Series Monster Wars, released in 1999 and 2000 respectively. They're both based on the animated series that came after the '89 TriStar film. Good series, by the way. The games, on the other hand, they're The first game is a side-scroller where you fight off the military. That's it. Godzilla Jr. walks automatically and all you can do is aim his attacks and attack the oncoming military. The second game is a side-scroller where you fight off the military and other monsters. That's it. Godzilla Jr. walks automatically and hang on a second. This is just the exact same game all over again. Seriously? It's so lazy. These feel like mini games you'd play in a larger game, not a full-priced retail game. Okay, so far these are easily the worst games we've looked at today. But that's fine, because 2 years later they made up for it with Godzilla Domination, released alongside Destroy All Monsters Melee and developed by WayForward. I have no hesitation saying this is one of Godzilla's best video games ever. It plays similarly to the arcade game King of Monsters, which just makes so much sense. The controls feel great as well. I'm able to fight the other monsters with no issue because the game feels so nice to play. And man, don't get me started on those visuals. The game looks gorgeous. Not only do all the kaiju look awesome, but the cities we fight in, the reporter girl who narrates the story mode, and the overall presentation are great too. And in the Japanese version, Godzilla, Mothra, and Mechagodzilla all have different sprites that look more closely to their appearances in Tokyo SOS, which was the latest movie at the time. However, I will say the roster of kaiju is interesting. You've got the big five, Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, and Megalon. I'm not complaining, I love Megalon, but he's just a really odd choice. The game was begging for tons of unlockable characters like Gigan, Jet Jaguar, Hedorah, Space Godzilla. Ah, come on, guys. I understand that limited space on the GBA cart is probably why the roster was so small, but come on, the game is perfect in every other regard. Let me complain about something. There's a fun little story mode, a typical alien invasion story we're all familiar with. Got this super cute reporter girl who updates on the story between levels, and one hell of a final boss. Even if the scale is grossly inconsistent, Mecha King Ghidorah is such a badass kaiju, and it only makes sense for him to be the final boss. Out of all the Godzilla games released, Domination is still my favorite. It's the one I go back to the most frequently, so we can only hope for the follow-up to be even better, right? Right? Godzilla Unleashed Double Smash sucks. Released from the DS in 2007 and releasing alongside the console version on Wii. Double Smash is a side-scroller where you destroy cities and fight other monsters. Look, guys, I played all these games within the span of a week. I am so sick of side-scrolling Godzilla games, and I honestly don't think that style of gameplay works all too well for Godzilla anyway, especially after Domination showed how great an isometric brawler can work. Look, Double Smash controls like garbage, looks like garbage, and sounds, well, okay, I'll admit, the music itself is pretty banging, but the gameplay just is not fun. You're constantly being hit by unavoidable attacks, being stopped in your tracks to destroy stupid city crystals. It's not fun. It's a pain in the ass to go through and just makes me mad when I play it. Considering this was the follow-up to Domination, I'm very disappointed. Godzilla Double Smash, more like Godzilla Double Ass. And unfortunately, that marks the final handheld Godzilla game. It's a shame we had to end on such a bad game. We still have the Game Gear and GBA games at least. So what did we learn today going through handheld Godzilla games? Well, developers really like side-scrolling games, and a lot of them are very boring. It was an interesting little ride, and hey, someday I promise I'll look at Godzilla's console games. But understand that those games are much larger and there's more of them, so a proper retrospective on those would take longer to make. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this month of Godzilla video, and I'll see you next week for the next one.